Some themes emerged from our session this morning, and I've tried to just grasp them the best way I can. The first one is that persons with dementia and their families want to be partners in the various elements of our health system. And I think wanting to be part of something is really an important message for our professionals at all levels. The ministry is developing a charter to this effect, and I'm sure the voices of caregivers and care receivers will help them to focus on this important goal. But my question is, how does this policy, this charter, and the desire of the people who are involved with this illness, how does it filter both up and down to the important players in a consistent way? It appears to me that funding models and education and systems interface are all or should be part of this plan. Because if there are not enough models out there of funding and education of the providers, the care won't be adequate. The second theme was a larger role for the Alzheimer's Society to help individuals and their families navigate the system and to help them understand that they have a voice. I think the Alzheimer's Society can also develop a collaborative partnership. And you know, there are various parts of the system. It may not be seamless at this point, but I think we're all working towards that. And it goes beyond team. It goes to collaboration among team members and between the teams and the parts of the system that will help it to be seamless. The question I have is, how do we assist the Alzheimer's Society to strengthen that role and to be a bigger player as a partner? The third theme is the ministry playing a key role because we now have this charter. How do we strengthen the research policy interface, and how do we implement the evidence and the framework of the charter into the community? The next one is an important one for me, the importance of communication, so that throughout the journey, the system becomes more seamless for those with the disease and their families, and between the various components of the system. Two-way communication is always a sender and a receiver. Do they both perceive the message in the same way? And I guess I would like to tell a little story. I learned a long time ago that it's not always wise to personalize, but I think in this case I will, because when I finally made the decision that Peter was to go to care, I had a phone call about 3 or 4 days after he was admitted to say, Mrs. Hinton, we've had a meeting and we don't want you to come and visit Peter for maybe a couple of weeks because he gets too agitated when you leave. And I said, what's your second option? Because Peter and I have been married for 26 years. We had a boat. We were intimately connected to each other for all of that time. Of course he's agitated when I leave because he's going to miss me. And so I did develop a system for them where I go every afternoon, and when it's bedtime and I have Peter ready for bed, I get into bed with him and I stay with him until he goes to sleep. So he has no separation anxiety. The next one is respect and individuality. I think what all of us want as persons with dementia and caregivers is to have people understand us and what helps us to remain successful and what makes us continue to grow. As Norma said, she wants to continue to grow, and that's how it should be. We want them to understand that this is a grieving process like no other, to understand our fear of the future, understand our frustrations. And I guess the question in this one is, how do we create a system that truly supports us as individuals and families? The next theme was developing better tools Well, I think that one's pretty clear. All care providers should have the same information about who we are, what we need, and how the system can help us to do what we do in the community and in a care facility. We shouldn't have to explain it over and over again. And that goes right down to the individuals who come to help us at home. I call them the bike brigade, and boy, there were lots of times when I wished the bike brigade would show up. But I think it is true that we need consistency in our caregiving experience. Lynn mentioned stigma. This is a big one, isn't it? What does it mean? Do our friends pull away? Do the professionals talk to the person who drove us to the dentist and not to us? Do the members of our community say things like, if you need anything, you just call? Well, that happened to me one too many times, and I said, I need a lasagna on Tuesday. I got it. The question then is, how do we build on the understanding of this disease in the broader community? Our friends, the community at large, the bank, the pharmacy, all of those people who we interact with. How do we build the understanding and the acceptance of us as we are in the community? This is a long journey, a progressive and complicated one, and we must consider the stages and plan in a different way for persons with dementia and their caregivers along the trajectory. The early stage groups are wonderful and so important, and so are the support groups for caregivers. But for me, at the stage I'm at, it's a different part of the story, and I need a different understanding from the people who I talk to. So the question is, how do we network? How do we plan for families in the system? And how do we assist and encourage them to do that planning? In closing, as a caregiver for Peter, I find reciprocity in the caregiving experience. I spend every day with him, and it's not a burden. It's a wonderful opportunity to support him. And I hope that the policymakers, the researchers, and all of us who work in this system, one way or another, will understand that it's not a burden, and that the words that we use reinforce how we view ourselves and how we see ourselves. There's a reciprocity in being a caregiver. It's hard work, and sometimes it's so, we grieve and we lose our perceptions about things, but after all, it's all about